One correction before we start this episode. Andy has won a combined 5 national championships between beach and indoor, not 3 as we mentioned in the intro. Intern Jim was able to fact check this. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it before we went to air with Andy. We hope you enjoy this episode. Be sure to check out the Joel Hannon, Liam Kopp and Chris Tao, and Logan Mend episodes as we do our best to build the rivalry that is Toronto OUA men's volleyball. Enjoy the show. Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to Passing Dimes. My name's Josh Nickel. Joining me today, Dallas Keith. Good, you?
Always good, Josh. Wonderful episode we have on here. Not quite sure where we are in the episode count, but we're still here.
You know, out of all of our episodes, this is one of them, you know?
Of all of the ones that we've recorded, this is definitely one that we've also recorded.
Yes. Truer words are never spoken. This week's guest is currently at the University of Toronto. We're going to move into indoor season here, so this is exciting for us.
A nice little transition for us from the sand to the court. A 3-time national champion.
Yes, he was with Pac-Man Volleyball Club, and you know us, we can never not talk about beach, so that's why he's a perfect transition, because won a couple national championships on the beach. He won a United States HP tournament where he met some friends that we'll hear some good stories about that. Currently coaching beach with the Titans, and my favorite part is, I hope we tell this story right off the bat, when he was just a young little guy, somehow he wore pants to the beach and forgot that he didn't have shorts underneath. So he came to the control tent and he goes, you guys wouldn't happen to have an extra pair of shorts. So he won an OVA beach tournament with nickel on the back of his leg because I donated my shorts. Welcome to the show, Andy Kos.
Thanks for having me.
Classic Nickel, slew-footing you for the story right away. I was going to ask, hey, any good stories? But I think Josh has already taken care of that one for us.
If anyone's ever seen me out in the daylight, they know I like to wear layers. So I had my pants on, my shorts on, and he's like, I don't have any shorts. I was like, probably going to keep my pants on all day anyway.
Lucky for you.
But yeah, they said nickel because I'm pretty obnoxious. So I don't know why the beach crew had to get custom shorts that year, but we did, and a player wore them.
It worked out well, though.
Do you remember that? Was that a U15 or U16 tournament? You were young.
I was 15 or 14.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know you very well.
No.
It was just like we were now I'd say friends.
Yeah.
But then it was just I was a 14-year-old kid. You were part of the head of the beach OVA, right?
So you were giving 14-year-old boys your clothes.
I privately.
Yes or no? You were giving 14-year-old boys you had met clothes that you had worn.
You know, I'm a pretty good read of character, and I could tell that this kid really needed help that day. And he wore shorts to a beach trip. It was a nice day. I went to the privacy of our trailer. I removed the layer of clothing.
How many times was the privacy of our trailer used in court?
And then he was nice enough to wash them and return them. So all-around good guy, and that's how we became best friends that day.
That's quite the entrance of a guest on the pod. I don't know if we can ever top that.
We'll see if this makes the air. We'll see if we leave it in. But moving on to more recent stuff, school started. How's U of T looking?
That's great. It's great. We just had our training camp. We got a couple fun recruits in and a lot of vets on the team. So excited for the year.
Yeah, we were talking before the show. You kind of came in as a first year and were expected to do stuff, and you started, and now you're a fifth year, right? Can you just describe what the different mood is? Maybe coming in as a first year and kind of like, I really want to play. I got a battle versus. Is it a little calmer being a fifth year?
Yeah, you're less worried about the school aspect, especially as a fifth year, having almost done my degree now, and all. It's like I don't know. First year you're in, and you're worried about school, residence, even like volleyball wise. Like you have no idea what to expect. Like
ladies,
yeah, ladies, and that as well. But now it's kind of you know that your days are numbered. One at the school, and kind of it's exciting to have a chance to do something special.
Now, we've had a U of T guy on. We've had Chris Tao on the show, and he's talked about, he's pretty excited because you didn't graduate too much last year. Is that fair to say?
We had one guy leave from medical school, and that was it.
Big Brain Ian?
Big Brain Ian.
Ian Burns, love that guy. So, talk about these recruits you've got, because it sounds like everybody's just kind of a year older, right?
Yeah, like we have everybody's a year older, and then we got 2 California recruits that don't even know each other, ironically. So I don't think, as far as I know,
California's a small place.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying one San Fran and one, I want to say San Diego. He's going to be mad at me if I don't get that wrong, but one middle, Jasper Neal, 6'9" middle, can rip a ball, and Ryan's son, our setter.
So how do you find California guys to come to the University of Toronto?
I don't know. I think it's the school. It's. I think one guy had Canadian citizenship, so that worked out well for for us and domestic fees and such. But I don't know. They both. Well, Jasper came for a recruiting trip. I remember he stayed at me and Chris's place actually last year, and
So assist for the commit there. You
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
showed him a good
Yeah,
time.
what's the commission look like on bringing in a recruit like that?
not much. Let's put it that way. But no, we got a great player in return, and he's really actually both California guys really gelled well so far, at least the first couple weeks. But yeah, them two. We got John Dunning, a Georgetown Mutt, old hockey player, grinder, and
Assist to Jake McNeil there. I think he started coaching club around that group, and he kind of brought them up where there was Dunning, Abrams, and a few other guys.
and Chris, I think, actually coached him too.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Big things happen in Georgetown.
I guess, right? I don't know, the real deal, Jake McNeil's the biggest thing to come out of Georgetown.
I'm going to fangirl a little bit here. Can you share some experience now that you've been around them for a few years? Like, what's it like practicing with Jordan Figueroa every day? It just seems like in a game he does some crazy stuff. Like, is he on in practice too?
Oh yeah. He's one of the few guys I can say is as competitive as I am. I'm very fiery as anybody I've played with. I do like to yell and scream, even if it's a stupid game of Wallace or whatever. And he'll be the first one to scream back at me or whatever if I'm playing against him and stuff. And it's all love after, but like that guy works his butt off and plays hard.
I feel like if he's 3 or 4 inches taller, we're talking about one of the best setters in the country. But he's had to make the most with what he is, because I think they might list him to 6 feet. I don't think he's 6 feet, is he?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll give him 6 feet because we're talking here and just moved in with him. But
So he's a hard 5'10".
he's yeah, no, but hey, he's touching 9 now. I think he touched 11 this year.
How many pairs of socks does he wear?
Don't know about that. But yeah.
Nice. And with you being there for a few years now, how did Chris Tao really affect the team there? Because he was a highly touted Ontario guy. He goes to U of A, and now that he comes back and chooses U of T, did you guys kind of feel you won the lottery a little bit? Like, has he kind of changed the dynamic?
Yeah, no, he was a great guy to have, and coming from such a successful program, right, at U of A, and having an immediate impact, clearly, because you can see from our standings and records, we've made a difference with everybody else coming up, and Chris coming in, and yeah, he was just a great guy to kind of get everybody focused on, hey, we can actually do this and make us believe. And yeah, no, he was a good team guy. I was lucky he's one of those Pac-Man guys I always get close with as well. I know Dallas is frowning right now and not happy, but yeah.
Everyone always talks about how great Pac-Man is. I think Pac-Man had like 2 good teams ever. Like, I don't know.
That's such a pop. That is such a pop.
Hot take of the day. Like, I don't know. I don't think any guys played club or played university that were my age from Pac-Man. I think it was all like, it was the Deering and Terrell show when I was in 16U and they were in 18U, and then it was, Coster's team and everything in between. I don't know, maybe I'm out of the game.
Dallas is stuck in this time machine where he really only remembers his playing days, and if anything happened before or after that, he doesn't remember. He still thinks Garrett May is the best player on the national team. I think. He just,
I don't know. I think Pac-Man, especially after that, kind of after your generation went, I think they've kind of
consistently. It started with you guys and Zach Elber were really good, and then
Shawan
Shawan's team
and Jordan
followed after, and then Cole Kaczynski's teams were just real good. Xander and Thomas Sawyer were kind of in that middle area between you. They're like they've pumped out some national championship squads, put kids on the national team. I think they're doing okay.
What do I know?
But in your era, I agree with you that they were just, I don't know. After the Deering era, I felt like everybody got like really confident and they wanted to do their stupid meter ball warm up, and just it didn't look as good. But they've got the horses now, I feel.
They had the Nathan Murdoch and Brendan Copper's year as well. That wasn't bad. That was 2 years older than me, I think.
Yeah, that was a fun fold-up at Provincials, actually, because they went from like dominating their age group, and then at Provincials, I think they took a 4th. Nathan Murdoch like ripped his jersey in half and threw it on the ground when they lost. It was just Ricky Brower was on that team.
Yeah,
they were real good until Provincials, and then the wheels fell off. And
funny?
it was to see personalities like that just crumble. It was. I shouldn't laugh because they were still kids at the time, but it was funny.
I think when we were at Yorktown, they would practice with us.
That's right. That is that squad.
That team. I remember that. It's unfortunate they had to fold up like that.
When you run around the halls of Rim Park doing the Budo chants and all that stuff, because they were at York and then you guys brought in Budo.
Chants.
So when they're being loud and obnoxious and they fold up, everybody was kind of secretly been like, yeah, take that.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the Pac-Man little mantra. I think it's a little bit of the target on the back after those kind of years. After the Budo stuff we started doing and all that. But I'm always Pac-Man forever on that point.
Shout out to Budo University.
It's all in good fun. you want a quick segue how that happened? Because you were at York when they came over, right?
I was at York the first year that they came over, and then York actually went to Japan. So we actually had a 2-year deal with Budo where every second year they would come to the Excalibur. And then in lieu of them coming to the Excalibur 1 year, York men actually sent a team, the team that I was on, for a 2-week camp. 1 week of just volleyball with Budo in the university, and then 1 week in Japan in Tokyo as, I think they called it like a cultural immersion program. So I think it was funded by the university where we only had to pay our plane tickets out there. But our whole preseason was spent in Japan with Budo in what could have been a sauna. I think it was like 40 degrees there every day.
We had them last year, actually.
They
came to Toronto last year.
I think they're still coming, but not a word of English. A lot of hand movements, but like some of the most disciplined people I've ever met. Like they traveled they had a travel team and like an academy team, so there was just practice players. But on that travel team that came to Canada, they had towel players who would stand at the end of the bench and run onto the court with a towel, wipe it up, and run back onto the bench whenever someone dove or their sneakers, like there was traction. So it was like they traveled, say, 15 guys, but 3 of them were towel boys.
Yeah, I'm the third string towel guy, but next year I'm really going to push to start,
But it was crazy too because they billeted us and we billeted them when we traveled, but it was just like the cultural stuff too. Like you would give them food and they wouldn't touch it until like you were essentially giving them permission to eat. And where I'm thinking, like, man, like, your food's in front of you, like, have at it, like, and they're like, no, we're just gonna sit here, like, you can't, like, I don't understand English, we don't understand Japanese, so it's just, like, this cultural lieu of, I don't know what to do in this situation, so you have to, like, hand gesture them to do certain things. Then, as soon as you start drinking, that's, I guess, the commonality, because they have these elaborate, like, chants and, like, hurrahs that are all circused around beer, and I think we brought some of that with us to our practice just because we were having such a fun time, like, laughing at it. And it's so funny that, like you say, a bunch of these underage teenage kids are yelling Budo chants. And probably all actuality, these are like drinking songs that they had like, queued up from like, this is our last night in Canada, we're getting hammered.
Yeah, so all a good time.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? They probably felt the same way after singing that song as the Budos guys did sing the song. But, yeah, no, that's funny.
Good. So looking into the OUA, I mean, you don't have to compliment too many people if you don't want to, but kind of just give us a preview. Who else is looking pretty strong this year? Obviously, you guys are in the conversation.
Obviously, Queens, I would say, because they did dethrone Mac. McMaster's always a good team. Ryerson, we always have good fights with them, and last year I think we split with them, and they're also a young team and growing.
Yeah, Joel Hannon liked to proclaim that they are the bad boys of the OUA. I don't know if anyone confirmed that. I can't confirm or deny, but let's stir the pot. Let's really start a rivalry, Dallas, just with passing dimes. We're going to make this into this big thing, and the players aren't even going to care. They're not going to know what we're talking about, but we're just going to start rumors that could be true, and it's really going to stir it up.
That's the whole mantra I like to live my life by, Josh, is, he said it could be true. I don't know.
Did you hear what Joel just said about Kos and Chris Tao at UT?
You know what? When Joel came on the pod and was talking about how, like, they're the bad boys of the OUA, I'm thinking, man, like, do I ever wish I could play and be on the court so I could, like, really rip into these guys and start chirping them to see, like, if they fold up. Because, like, if you're good at what you do and you're, like, a bad boy, like, if you're not folding at chirps, like, I will chirp, but I'll also get probably chirped the hardest. So I'm curious, because I don't know. I think some of these guys are soft. There's my second hot take.
Well, I remember there was one play, I think, when we went there to Ryerson. I think Nick Truen hit a pipe and went under the net. And I think you can verify this. This is from my last year recollection, but I remember him either getting shoved or something on that side because he scored, but I don't remember who did it, but pushed him on their side of the net, right? Like when he jumped over, and then that started some words, and that kind of set the tone for our whole rivalry the whole season. But I don't know. I think we went farther, so that's my thing. I think we got the best of that so far.
Yeah, I mean, coming from the York standpoint, it was always a big recruiting point to win the Toronto matches, so that you could have the best team in Toronto title. I think if you were to go, we played 20 games when I was in university. So if you were to go 4-8 16, but your 2 wins came at Ryerson and U of T, and then it was a successful year, according to them. So
we need more rivalries like this. Like the Ohio State-Michigan one's one of my favorite in all sports, where they don't even say each other's names. There was examples this year where Ohio State crossed out every M on campus. Like if the name of the athletic center was like the Michael Cronin Athletic Center, the M would get crossed out. Like they didn't even allow any of that type of stuff. They don't say their names. Where
let's not forget
passing times is going to stir the pot.
We
so
should.
much that U of T is going to hate Ryerson.
We
and
should.
vice versa.
You know what? I like to see a little more zest in this pot. But let's not forget the biggest rivalry of them all is Rutgers Northwestern.
Good inside joke.
Yeah, it's a little inside joke there.
Ooh, Rutgers.
Yeah.
Northwestern. Anyways, yeah, thank you for that update. I've had enough indoor talk for right now because it's still warm outside and we trained outside today. So, to the beach!
My favorite.
What was your start in beach? Was it the Pac-Man programming, or how did you decide to get into beach volleyball?
My dad was always a big fan of beach volleyball. He never played any high level, but I was like, we were talking before on the show, his best friend's Roman Coker. So they played beach together. They were beach partners. So I ended up watching, I remember Andrew playing a 13U beach volleyball tournament. Maybe even Dallas was there. I have a vague recollection of you playing at that point.
I remember hearing him a couple courts down.
Yeah, probably that's probably more likely, but I don't know.
Wherever the whistle blown, cards are flying.
But yeah, I just kind of growing up a little bit on the beach. Dad put me there, and then first real competitive thing I had was with Jesse Sati and that Pac-Man Beach program. That's produced so many good beach athletes.
Yeah, because we talked to Jake when he was on the episode. That's a way back, but that's like episode 3 if you guys want to go back and listen to that. That Jake was one of those kids who would play both days every weekend no matter what. And I feel like you followed that, where you must have been in Ashbridges every weekend, both days, hammering it out. Your parents obviously must have been very supportive for you to be making a run at it, right?
Or they just weren't doing anything on Saturdays.
No, it's the biggest shout out to Mom and Dad. They definitely all those Coburg trips, stayed overnight, that Best Western, all that stuff. Like we did like every possible opportunity. I remember doing tournaments at Sobel with Liam Gray. There's a throwback.
Yeah.
But Sobel tournaments were that. I still have scrapes, I think, from Sobel.
I think one of my favorite stories, and we won't give him any more airtime because he doesn't need it, is Jake McNeil, where he said he played, I think, what was it, like an Ottawa tournament on a Saturday and drove back to play the Hamilton tournament the Sunday.
Well, to be fair, Kelly drove, but Jake was sleeping in the car.
Exactly. But I mean, like, no hotel. Like, you're making a day trip up to Ottawa. Obviously, I'm imagining you staying over the first night, but you're driving from Ottawa after you play to Hamilton to play again, like third hot take of the day. 2 really not competitive beach volleyball tournaments just to get the reps in. Like, I commend that.
Yeah, so it definitely paid off. So what was your first kind of experience beyond OVA and Nationals? Was it that U.S. tournament?
Yeah, that was, I think, when I was 16.
How'd you hear about this one, or how'd you qualify for this?
That was the Team Ontario
thing.
So that was when Eddie and Angie and all that stuff, and they gave the opportunity for me and Zach. I was playing with Zach Albert at that point, and they said, do you want to go to Hermosa and play this tournament? And we were like, sure. So we ended up going, and
the caveat being, were your expenses covered?
No.
Oh, okay.
They were not.
Yeah.
So we had to cover that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always the big thing. But no, we had a blast with it, and that was probably, I would say, peaked at 16, 17. That was the best year. That was
should be a hashtag.
Yeah, peaked there. But no, we had a great time and did quite well. And yeah, it's funny when you look back at all those players we played. I remember still keeping contact with some of them, like Kyle Skinner, another guy who played for US for all those youth tournaments and now plays at Ohio State. I remember playing him in the final. He played with Matt Yoshimoto, is the Lewis starting setter, I think. So it's funny just watching those guys grow up from like 16, right, and playing them in that same tournament, right? There's a few other ones I can't remember. But
so at that time, you were a big beach guy, right? Like, do you have any first impressions from Hermosa? Because everybody who's never been there hears Hermosa, and it's like, oh, that's like the Mecca, right?
Yeah.
That's like USA beach volleyball in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, that's by far my favorite place to play beach volleyball, or even just go to. I would say, like, that's like the only place in the world that I've been to, at least. Dallas can maybe attest to this, that there's beach volleyball is playing at the bars or at the pubs and stuff. Like, I've never seen that. I don't know, maybe in Brazil or something.
You're ready for my third big moment of the pod here?
This might be 4th. I don't know who's keeping track of this. Jim, what number are we on?
We need our summer intern back. Never been to California.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've been to Poland, you've been to Brazil, you've been
23 countries.
Australia. 23
countries beach volleyball has taken me, not to California once.
Really?
Yeah.
I recommend it. It is a,
I
it's a
hear
lovely place.
from what Andy's telling me, it's very, very nice.
I've only been to like Long Beach and Anaheim. I can't even say I've been to like Manhattan or Hermosa, like the nice spots. So I recommend it.
Big shout out to California on the pod. Love for their parks and tourism to have us out there. just waiting for our call.
Waiting on my shift, Dion.
Just waiting on my shift, California.
Yeah, so maybe let's stay on that again. So you mentioned there's a lot of players there. Is the sand as deep as they say? Like, what was your first training experience like?
Like my cardio is terrible. That's always I was never the fittest guy, nor the tallest, nor the thing. And I remember stepping there for one training session, and I was absolutely exhausted after the first warm up of 5 minutes. So seeing that and seeing how people play through it, like it's a completely different game. Like it's like everybody. I found at least at that youth level, it was a lot more shots compared to the hitting at Ashbridges and stuff. So that was kind of more of my game as well. So I fit in there, but. I don't know. I had a blast playing there, and the deep dish hand setting. That was always what everybody told me, and I was very true. Like you could hold the ball as long as you want, but if there comes a rotation of spin, it's being called.
And they'll let you know.
Oh, they will. And I remember I did it at one point. You can ask Zach on this as well. I think there was actually film on it somewhere, but I set 3 balls that were doubles in a row, and I kept telling the ref, "Keep calling me. I dare you." These aren't double. I was maybe a rotation and a half. Barely anything. It was windy too, and I was very frustrated, but it's a learning experience, no doubt.
You're down 9-0. Figure, what am I going to do here?
You won't call me 5 times. You won't call me 6 times.
Yeah. Well, I was stubborn and still am, so.
And meanwhile, Zach's probably like, man, I feel like I'm passing pretty well right now.
Hey, man, why don't you go on 2 or something?
No, but yeah, it's even like that whole atmosphere though, like going back to that, like even seeing all the pro players, like I remember the second time I went with Sahil the next year, Sahil Pooney, big shout out there, but he, I remember we ended up seeing, I think it was at that time, Phil and Sean Rosenthal were playing together, and like they were like a court over, and then they ended up serving balls at us for like 5 minutes, like Sean's float serve and stuff, and I was like, this is the coolest thing as like a young
Did
beach
you
volleyball
fangirl
player.
it? Somebody walk over and say,
"Oh my god, yeah."
You definitely peaked at 16.
Yeah,
excuse me, Mr. Rosenthal, would you mind serving some balls at us?
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. And then like we were talking about before the show, the big one was now that's relevant is sorry, not that Sean's not relevant or Phil isn't, but probably more relevant than he was.
Him on the pod too.
No, I don't mean to do
Kos's
that.
first hot take of the show.
No, it was. I think the guy that I always remember was Adrian Karambula. Right, I remember seeing him and the U.S. guy saying, "Oh yeah, this guy's really good. I've never heard of this guy." And I watched like AVP, and I was like, "I've still never heard of this guy at this point." He was this little like short, maybe a little chubby as well, and he came up to. It was that second time came up to me, Jake, Craig Ireland, and Sahil Pooney, and was like, "I'll play you guys for lunch," and we're like. What do you mean?
Getting hustled by this guy.
Yeah, and we're like, what in the world? Like, we thought we were half decent, right? If some random guy comes off the beach, right? And he's like, yeah, 1-on-2. And we're like, sick, free lunch. Like, we're like, I won't say no, right? And he's like, yeah, one caveat. Like, if you lose, I get to film you and get you guys to face plant in the sand. And you buy me lunch. And we're like, deal. Like, no problem, right? So the first game, I think, was me and Jake versus Adrian himself, right? And believe it or not, this guy beats us. It was 21-17, 21-18 by himself, skyballing and absolutely reading the hell out of us. But yeah, and then I think we lost, and Craig and Sahil lost as well. So I think the one he posted actually was Craig and Sahil. So if you still go to his Facebook page, like, I don't know what year that would have been, 2013, 2014.
You got some scrolling to do.
Yeah, you got some scrolling to do, but it's still on there from last time I checked. So, but that was like one of the coolest experiences to see him now. Like he's one of the best defenders in the world.
What a stupid Instagram post. Totally hustled these kids for lunch. I'm the man. Like, there's no way I'm looking for that. If anything, I'd call him up. Like, hey, dude, what's your deal?
He ended up playing, I think, the 16-year-old kid. Like, started saying we were 16. I think it was 14-year-old kid. I think Brandon. He actually knew him, but he ended up playing him like every day for lunch. And it was Paradise Bowl. I got to give a shout out to him as well. Like, that was like the biggest thing to eat and stuff. This when Acai Bowl. But he ended up playing this kid. Instead of getting lunch from him, he put him in a garbage can and rolled him down the Hermosa sand for like a quart. And I was like, look, what the hell are you doing? Kind of thing. And I don't know. He was probably the most competitive guy I've ever seen in my life. Like he's comparable to Jake, like we were talking about before the show. Like he
just hanging out at the beach looking for kids to bet.
Yeah, like yeah.
Comes on, what'd you do today? I put a kid in a garbage can and rolled down the beach.
Got a free lunch. So when was the moment you clicked where you probably saw him on the World Tour? Like, is that the guy?
I want to say like 2 years after. I think I saw him.
Acai and granola guy!
Yeah, I think 2 years after. I want to say he played in the AVP and made a final or two. And I was watching when they still had the I think he did. I think it was the AVP on ABC. Right?
Or
They had
NBC,
NBC maybe. Yeah, either one. Like, I remember watching it. I was like, damn, that's the same guy, right? And he shed a couple pounds, and he has a partner. He's not playing by himself, and he did pretty well for himself.
He made the Olympics.
He made the Olympics. Yeah.
He just had a good world champs too. They're playing a very entertaining style of volleyball with the speed offense, and the skyball's always been there, but they're doing some razzle dazzle
They
stuff.
beat
That's real good.
Dalhouser and Lucina in 2. Upset of the tournament.
He doesn't look the part, but he can play.
He acts the part for sure. Must be all those damn Paradise balls.
I say even in the World Championships, I don't think he was getting his sky serve in the stadium. I think one of them, the main court had a top over it, and he was hitting the roof with the sky ball. I remember seeing a Snapchat story from my buddy.
It doesn't. It doesn't do it justice until you see it in person. Like, you think you can rip like a high sky ball. This guy hammers them to the moon. Like, they're so high, and I don't understand how he's got so much accuracy with it. But talking with him, he has like 2 serves where one pushes you back and one keeps you forward. So he knows he doesn't really know the location of where it's going to be, like left side, right side, but he can put the depth on it pretty good. He knows this one's going to push him back, or this one's going to be close to net. And like, there's even strategy to his sky ball. So it's wild.
I didn't realize how skilled he was until World Champs in Holland that one year. They just had like a bunch of venues, and one was on the water, and they had like one of those cruise ships that must be whatever story high or whatever. And Brink was the reporter, and he caught one like it was a punch in football. Basically, Karambula could serve it that high into his lap. Like, that's how good he is with this thing. It's insane. Like, anyways, so you bought him lunch. Best friends forever.
A few times, honestly, throughout that week, but
can't wait to have him on the pod for his side of the story.
Yeah, do you have his number? We can get him on the pod. Nice. So that wasn't your last experience with high performance volleyball. You didn't peak at 16U because you went to a U21 Worlds, and it's in Dallas and I's favorite story place, China. Let's just take it from there. What was U21 Worlds like? What was trials like, first of all? Let's get into that.
Yeah, trials was fun. Again, me and my best buddy, Austin Valius, ended up doing it and trying out, but it was kind of a last-minute thing for us. But 2 months before, we were like, hey, I saw this on thing. Do you want to try out? He just saw this on the website, and he's like, sure. I was like, do you want to practice? And he's like, sure. And we didn't have a coach. We went through the whole trials without a coach and everything, and we went to North Beach, I think, every day for a month and a half to play 6-on-6 people and random recreational people to train, right? And just the 2 of us, and it worked out, and we ended up getting the final. Lost to Taiwan, to Tom and Logan, friends of the show. But yeah, no. And,
who else was in that tournament?
It was Braden Montgomery and Justin Feaster, 2 BC guys. Christian Frick, and I don't remember who he played with that tournament. Frick,
another Scotia guy, maybe?
Yeah, I don't remember the Scotia guy. I don't honestly. I remember that was the top.
I remember a lot of them. But
no, none of those are huge tournaments, right? But they're always
like, hey man, they used to be huge tournaments. I remember. Well, it was different for whatever reason. When I did my trials, we did it in August outside, and you did it a month before the event, and if you won, you were Canada 1, but then you got Canada 2 was nominated.
Yes.
So it wasn't, for people that don't know the structure in Canada, basically to nominate for continental events or for junior events, you take the first place team and you sort of go down the board. The second place team will be Canada 2, the third place team will be Canada 3, and however many spots Canada gets, that's how they do it. But when I was in my first World Championships, which is 2012, Nick Del Bianco, Ben Chow won. Grant O'Gorman, Aaron Nussbaum came second. I think I came fifth. But then the 3 teams that went were Nick and Ben, Canada 1. Garrett May and I were nominated as Canada 2. Aaron and Grant were nominated as Canada 3. And I think that's the good way of doing it. I think sometimes the way tournaments get structured, an upset could happen. And you know what? If you're the best on that day, you're the best on that day, you deserve to go. But I think sometimes if you want to do well, I think you put your best guys together for a second nomination.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. I think looking back on athlete development and who's actually taken a Youth World spot and transferred it to being an FIB World Tour player, I think the nomination thing is maybe working a little bit better than the system right now.
Yeah.
But I see value in both. I see the value of very evaluation friendly. You won, so you get to go, like little things like that. But I think there's a time and place. Mike Montinga, who was just on the show, talked about how he moved to Toronto with basically not even a promise that he would go, a chance to be nominated, right? So it did draw more athletes in, and you could kind of say, you're physically on point to be maybe a main draw player someday, so we're going to nominate you. Like, there's some give and take there, I think, for sure.
It's an interesting thing we'll have to get our intern to look into is how many people have played a youth event and a senior world tour event.
Yeah, because in other countries it stands out, and we can name Cantor Loziak and all these guys, but Canadians, I think there's a few that it's kind of the peak.
I think it's 50-50 if I was to take a ballpark on it. I say 50% go and 50% don't.
Interesting. Well, let's get back to our guest. You and I could talk later.
Oh, sorry, I thought you left.
So you get to China. Friends who listened to Thomas and Logan's episode, maybe we won't tell the same story twice, but bit of a ghost town, eh? Bit of a weird city to host an international event in.
Man, yeah, like we originally were told it was in Nanjing, right? Which is like, I think it was still written on the website and stuff. But the actual city was...
I think it was. I always thought it was in
Nanjing. So it is, like that's where they drop you off in the airport. It's a pretty big city, but the actual tournament was held in Tangshan, like probably an hour outside, right? So this is like in the middle of nowhere. Like when we got there, like we had there was one mall that we always joke about. I'm sure Tom and Logan talked about it, but it was just like, we called it Nuketown from like Call of Duty. Like there was like absolutely no one there. Like everything was overpriced. Not a single person was shopping there but the volleyball players. Like it was like really creepy, but.
And the hotel was far from the venue, wasn't it?
It's probably like a 25-minute walk.
Oh, okay. I was led to believe it was further, but that's not too bad.
That's not bad at all.
No.
Compared to other places, that's not bad at all.
No, it wasn't too bad. But like again, the whole, like, you've been to China through all that stuff. It's its own kind of animal. So I remember turning on the faucet the first time and becoming orange, like highlighter orange, the water in the hotel that's supposed to be the main draw. But
it's a 5-star hotel, I swear.
Yeah. So that was quite the experience. But
sir, is the water supposed to be neon green?
But yeah.
Well, let's talk about the tournament a little bit. How early did you guys arrive? Did you get a chance to train with some teams, meet some friends?
Yeah, we came, I think, I want to say 5 days early, 5-6 days early. So we had a good amount of time to kind of get used to it. We ended up training against Poland 1, which we actually won a practice match against, which was to our surprise.
So count.
Yeah, to our surprise. But it was a great match. And who else did we play against? The Dutch team, who I went to go visit this summer. Actually, I became really good friends with.
Still friends with.
Still friends with.
Are they trying to make a run at beach volleyball? Or
they are actually. Ruben Penenga and Mace Blom. Give him a shout out here. Yeah, Mace. Ruben plays with Jas Boutier. He's like they played a few events.
I recognize those names. I feel like Mike and Aaron have played them. I've scouted those guys.
I don't know. Andy's pronunciation is putting on the ball there.
Yeah, don't. Not the best of that, but
Let's
yeah.
not get into pronouncing last names. Working on the OBA Beach Tour, I apologize to anyone who had a Polish background because once it got past like the third syllable, I was just mumbling.
There's a lot of partners.
Yo, yeah. That's why I handed that roll off to Josh Taylor, the voice of the beach.
But we have
back to China. It's the longest story we ever had on the podcast.
And it might not even pay off.
No! I'm excited to see where it ends.
Yeah, we played a few of those practice matches, and it actually worked out all well, and we did that old players meeting because we were the qualification team, and we drew the U.S., which again wasn't our favorite draw we were looking at like Ukraine, Puerto Rico, I don't know, some other, like again, historically not as good beach volleyball things, but we prepared for it, and we didn't have our best game, no doubt about that. And again, after it, we had to settle down and stuff. But we made the most of the whole trip, and we ended up playing like a little practice tournament after and stuff with all the teams that got knocked out, and that was a cool experience. And we ended up playing that same U.S. team again, ironically, and actually winning a match. So it was quite upsetting. But again, I remember that qualification was quite tough. I remember the lucky loser who came in. I think it was the Austrian team, ended up coming in fourth. out of the qualification. So I remember seeing like I don't know if that often happens, right? But
well, it's interesting.
So hard to rank that event.
It's interesting because a lot of the stronger countries, like Brazil, often will send in youth events the stronger team to the qualifier, knowing that they will qualify, so that they will have two teams in the main draw, which is tough because the North American model is you send the better team to the main draw, you send what you think is the stronger team to the main draw, but so man, we talked about this at length all the time. Qualification's its own animal.
It really is a different tournament. Like the way you prep for it is way different getting off the plane, knowing you're in the
stress,
qualifier
man,
versus the main draw.
Being in even in World Tour events, like the absolute stress you have of playing in a qualification, getting on the plane, getting settled, compared to like main draw, like when like you lose your first game, it's okay. You got another rebound. You lose your game, like that's it. You're done. Go home.
Yeah, I remember actually in speaking to Logan, I think the qualifier team that was entered into their pool ended up taking like a 9th. So that was an especially strong tournament for just these random teams coming out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So, without spoiling too much, I don't know what we can say on air. It seemed like that was a pretty inclusive tournament. Thomas mentioned that he made a lot of friends at that event. Was it fair to say some of the international teams were just there for a good time once they were out of the tournament?
Yeah. I'd say I know Austin can definitely attest to that as well, and Logan and Tom I'm sure did too. But we definitely had our good time after several apple juices and all that stuff, and had some drinks after. But no, we ended up like making lifelong friends. There's no doubt about that. Like I think me and Austin after that qualification day I was telling you before the show, we had about 35, 40 people in our double person room kind of thing. We had a nice little get together and ended up meeting a lot of people, and had a good time. It was a lot of fun.
You got to win the players party sometimes, Dal. That's what you really got to do.
Never won a players party. Never aspired to win a players party either.
Well, it's not ideal, right? But no, we ended up. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of good friends, and still talk to them.
Nice. Hopefully, we'll see you on the beach soon again. You didn't play this summer at all, did you?
Played one tournament with Stinner, but no. Again, I got concussed in the middle of the summer, and still kind of recovering from that now. But hopefully that would be the goal, no doubt. But loving coaching as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Speaking of segues, I was just gonna talk about that. You're not gone from the beach game because you were coaching all summer, right? Yeah. Was Laura Condata there a lot too?
Yeah, so me and Laura actually run the Titans Beach program. So she's my assistant. So she's gone. She actually still plays on the World Tour and stuff. So she's gone for a few weeks of the summer, but I'm there most of the time.
Took a second to nationals, but she's your assistant.
Yes,
she's really just there to demo and explain drills.
No, she's not like we're very good friends, so it's a nice combo to have, and like our program's grown. We've done it for 2 years now, and like we've seen a lot of girls have great results. Our 12U girls actually won provincials. Ariana and Athalia, so shout out to them. They did quite well this year.
Sure, they're listening.
Yeah.
They better be.
But,
we're going to be getting a whole different demographic after this episode here, Kos.
But we had a great time doing that, and then I have a few guys I coach as well privately. So I have a bunch of 16U boys, and 2 of my boys won nationals this year, so that was great.
They're listening. We've cornered that.
We've cornered that, Kenneth and Punet, and it was great.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because I do want to get back to your stories from the road and everything. I just thought of this when you said you had a really good 12U team. They play beach and they're using 3 contacts and it looks really good, but when they go back into indoor, they have to play triple ball. Do you not find that fascinating that they can play 2-on-2 and it looks like volleyball, but then indoor they have to modify it? I get that there's more kids around and they might not be as experienced, but in your coaching experience, like your 12Us are ready to play volleyball essentially. Well,
right? there's spin serving and running.
See, that's
shoot
what
sets,
I found amazing.
And it's like it's I am big. I'm with Dallas on that one. That's
I don't even know. Question for the intern: where did it come from? Why is it here? Does anybody else do it?
Screw the intern. I'll take that one because I was at the OVA when it happened. I believe it started in Alberta. I thought it was a really good idea because Jason Trepanier, who was the OVA technical director, very evidence-based. Like, we would never make a decision without having evidence. So between Jason, myself, and I think a few other coaches who volunteered, we actually started statting. And we found out 14U was the youngest. And not at Tier 1, but at the lower tiers of 14U in the OVA at that time, the serve was influencing over 70% of the play, where it resulted in a missed serve, a shank, or a clean ace. So for the parents who freaked out in the beginning, then when we started playing triple ball, well, this isn't volleyball. Well, I went and scouted your daughter in Wingham, Ontario at a Trillium Level 14U tournament, and I can tell you right now, that wasn't volleyball either because it was a kid serving.
Shout out Wingham, Ontario.
But anyway, so then it got installed, but I feel like triple ball, as volleyball continues to grow, needs to keep moving down the line, right? Like when it first started, it was a 14U thing. Now the 14Us are playing. 13Us are real good, and now you've just demonstrated you got 12Us who can play, right?
Yeah.
So to clarify, this is a Canadian invention?
I believe it is, yes.
I gotta say the telephone was much better.
I think it gets kids playing volleyball. There's more net play involved. You actually get a set. There's like maybe rallies that have to be produced from this game. But I'm just so conflicted when I see kids like the athletes you were coaching who can just flat out play, and then we like slow the game down, and I don't think that helps their development.
Well, even another one is they played on a 7x7 court, right, in beach, and like we train. I know they're like the anomaly of that age group, right? But
they were the best team.
They were the best team.
No,
Well, I
like
said,
Dale.
but like that's one of my things is like we teach them how to hit deep and all that stuff, and then when they go play 12U, and even the final, I watched the semis and the finals of those. All those girls could swing, right? So kind of restricting them at that 7x7, I was always questioning as well.
Yeah, modifying the court is a big conversation because I was a fan of the smaller court because I thought it encouraged rallies and you have less space to cover and you got to play the ball a little bit more versus just watching the ball because, again, 12Us weren't always able to play like this. Garrett, when he was on the beach crew, he had an idea that maybe if the net was a little bit higher, then the ball slows down a little bit and has to go up and down. So maybe that's more realistic to the beach game where they're still hitting, but the ball slows down. So there's no right answer. I think as long as the kids are having fun and they're touching the ball a lot and it's not just watching the server, I'm fine with it. But yeah, that was my hot take on triple ball where there's some 12-year-olds, there's probably some like 11-year-olds who can play. I think triple ball belongs in like public schools, maybe introductory. I think if you're playing rep volleyball, it needs to start to look like volleyball a little bit.
I think your hot takes are a little lukewarm.
You know what, Dallas? We can start some controversy right now.
I gotta say, I feel like an idiot. I had no idea there was a 7x7 court that was going on for younger age groups. So
you're just not in touch with the youth.
Learn something every day on the podcast here.
Dallas, what age group are you coaching in club this year?
The OVA can quote me on this. I am coaching 15U girls because I don't have a certification to coach anything higher because I was on the, I don't even call it the grandfather or I don't know what it is. I've ruined my probation period with UOVA, so now I have to be certified if I'm coaching anything higher than 15U. So we're at a standoff right now. I'm coaching 15U because I'm basically told I have to.
So you're in this weird gray area where you don't understand the rules of triple ball, so you can't coach a team in that, and you can't coach a team that requires like a level 2 or an advanced development certification.
I figured playing on the national team for 8 years was I could have been certified enough. Like, you know, I had a varsity career spanned 6 years, but I guess no, you need the pen to the paper and you need that certification.
As a guy who helps facilitate coaching clinics, I'm sorry, you might be good because you played university and stuff. I've seen some university players who can't organize a drill or really understand what's going on. So as much as I agree that most university players should be encouraged to coach and maybe be like sped through or fast tracked, there's some that don't have a clue.
Right, there's some that don't have a clue, but I don't think those go and play at a higher level than university. I think if you play at the international level, you have a sort of an innate understanding of high performance volleyball. And granted, I'll be the first person to say I'm not a great development coach, but I think I understand the game enough to coach at a high level to say, you know, the 31's complemented with a BIC, and you know, you run sort of options like that, but.
So your 15U girls team is going to run a BIC.
Yeah, my 15U girls team.
And you're going to run a spread to the 31, and then your right side's going to run a tempo? Oh, man.
My 15Us will know how to run an X-play for sure. They just won't necessarily know where to start in rotations.
I know of these things.
Yeah, I know. There's 6 rotations. Don't ask me. I don't know. I didn't play setter. I don't know where setter's supposed to be.
Oh, this is great. Well, we'll end the coaching conversation on this. I'll get the last say because, you know, it's my show. No, I'm kidding. I think volleyball would grow if we had more coaches, so I'm glad that you're still staying involved even though you kind of met a roadblock where you wanted to coach a higher level team, but there's too much to do and you got to give them more weekends and stuff. But the more clubs I talk to, there's not a club that I found in Ontario that's just like, whoa, we have enough coaches, we don't need any more coaches. Clubs are basically, they're at a point where if they had more coaches, more kids would be playing volleyball. So credit to you, Dal, for sticking around even though you're too cool to do triple ball, but You're not cool enough to coach 17U. Sorry, bud.
Not anymore.
Anyways, back to Kos.
I didn't realize the Dallas Keith episode was number 1 and number 31.
It's every episode.
Yeah. Speaking of stories, we like to do a lot of this at Pastimes. It's funny that you're here because my recollection of you as a player is not necessarily coming from the university standpoint or the youth world standpoint, but proud to date myself a little bit here. This was before I was with the national team, so I want to say it was like 2010, 2011.
Yeah, it would have been that sounds right. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Kosser was a camper at the York University volleyball camp. I guess you want to call it that. And I had the pleasure of being his counselor for a week of fun with grandfather of the show, Wally Diva.
Wow. Go into details on this. So this wasn't an overnight camp. This was a day camp.
This was a day camp, yeah. I should preface that. So every summer, I don't think they do it anymore. I don't know. I know U of T does a lot of camp stuff. But York University had, what was it? I think 16 was the top age. I don't know if they use it as like a recruitment tool, but I think it was 9 to 16. You spent the week with York University players and coaches, and it was fun. I don't know. It was like volleyball and then like dodgeball or like. So I just remember I was like, Andy's the only kid I really like on the court here.
Zach Albert was there too.
Zach Albert was here. I wouldn't even know that. There's a lot of kids that annoy me. This kid doesn't annoy me. You know what? Well, I'll take the higher group here. But it's funny. I think you won MVP of the camp.
I think I did, if I remember. Either that or I think I went 2 years honestly with you there. I remember guys I remember from coaching were you, Kareem.
Kareem,
good guy.
That was
great guy.
one of Ray's first years.
Ray Zito, he's a guy.
Yeah. It was Marvin was one of your
Marvin
centers.
Macalino.
I was going to say that's. I think he was
that's
one of it. Yeah, I think that's all the ones I can remember honestly. But yeah, that was I remember. Yeah, we were.
Josh, you might remember this? I forget his last name. Dexter. He played Masters for Canada.
He was an alumni.
Yeah,
York, right?
he was there. He was a great alumni. I forget his last name. It's gonna bug me, but we'll have to go back and edit this in. But Dexter was
maybe not.
a lot of work. Dexter was part of that camp too, which was nice. It's always nice when alumni come back to the program. So I think in any capacity, whether it's high school, university, or teams, it's nice to have alumni come back in.
And this gives us a story to build into our wrestling promos or UFC promos when we talk about York versus U of T that Kos won an MVP at York didn't reward them by committing
By committing, Wally's pissed.
Yeah, sorry, Wally.
Has he spoke to him since?
Probably forgets who he is.
No, shout out to Wally. Actually, he was one of my favorite coaches. Honestly, I think he coached my coach now, John. I think Wally was actually one of John's first or one of Wally's first coaching gigs was or at some capacity. I know they worked. I know he's been for a while.
Started the York program, right?
Yeah,
Like that goes
Wally,
back that
Wally
far.
had been at York for 42 years. In 2012, when I was in my third year there, I know that he played basketball and volleyball at Western, and the joke was that he played basketball when the peach basket was still in the gym. But yeah, I think he had graduated or had played his last year in like 63 and graduated Western, done a master's, graduated the master's, and then started the program at York. So from the 60s to 2013, Wally Daba had been there.
We got to have him on the show.
That, you know what?
Get a glass of wine into him and just hear some stories.
I would love to have Wally on the show. That would
Me
be
too.
a real sentimental thing to have, actually.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anyway, so that was a good story about our guest. Maybe our guest has a story for us.
Yeah,
because he's listened to a few episodes. He told me that he's not just
knows.
a guy.
We won't even have to prompt him on this. We're just gonna go with, straight in, sort of what predicaments have you found yourself in relating to being a volleyball player?
Yeah, so I remember my first year coming into U of T. We had our training camp and our first road trip. We're coming up. I don't know where we were playing, either Laval or maybe a Humber tournament or something. I don't know. One tournament, and
it was either really far or really close.
Really close. But I remember it was the first kind of playing experience I could have. And going into this, we have I'm in kinesiology, and Del, do you graduate? No, you're not a kin guy. No, sorry. You're doing a little
You
smirk there.
stop yourself there.
Sorry.
Before you even start.
Sorry, no, but we have a kin like outdoor camp basically for orientation, like in addition to frosh, and so we go into that. It's like 3-4 days long, and I go in whenever I was like ready for volleyball. We've already had like a few days of training, right? And I go off to this camp for 3 days, and we were like, that's a sports camp. You play a bunch of games, right? And one of the games, of course, is like a pretty physical game. And I used to play football way back a little bit. And this game appealed to me. It was called Greasy Melon Ball. And this...
I love that.
So the game basically constitutes of putting a watermelon in Vaseline, standing in about like 3 feet of water, and playing rugby, full tackle rugby, and trying to put the melon on the other side. And again, my dumb self decided to jump into this tournament, and within the first 2 minutes of it, I grab the melon, start running, and then this big Hungarian guy spear tackles me in the head. I get knocked out in the water, and face down the water, can't remember anything from probably about half an hour after that, and I basically wake up in a cabin, and I'm like, what the hell happened? And whenever I come back to U of T after that whole camp, I was severely concussed, and I tell John, I got concussed playing Greasy Melon Ball that first year, and I don't think I've seen a man that angry or upset in quite a while. And that was one of my first experiences with Coach John, and I've had better experiences since then. But
and a first year has never played melon ball since.
You're concussed now.
It was not a great start to my first year, and learned quickly after that.
John is a great volleyball guy, and he's been around a long time, but he's one of the few people in volleyball I think that I'd be actually concerned to anger. Like, he's one of the guys who I think could really, like, do some damage.
There's a few off-the-record stories for sure, but, he's on my do not mess with list. I think he might be on the podium with that.
Well, I was saying, like, as a kid who came in, and still am a kid, I consider myself a kid as a fifth-year student, but came in with definitely a bit of an ego and thinking, like, I can definitely attest to that and admit that, but he definitely shot that down pretty quick, and I honestly thank him for that now, coming in as, like, you were asking me what the difference between a first year and second, or first year and a fifth year, for me, like, kind of realizing my place, and realizing that I'm not the shit, so, but like, a few experiences with John where I've learned a lot from that, and what not to do in certain situations, what not to say, and definitely pay off in life, not just in volleyball. So
he's not afraid to, pull the leash on a few guys and let them know where they really stand.
I like that. I like it when you can mix it up.
Sweet.
Well, man, thanks for coming on. I think we got a lot of good content, and we really appreciate you coming on. And I think both Josh and I are excited to watch you grow in your last year.
Yeah, I know you were a little nervous coming on, but one of my favorite guests. We got a lot of stories there. I laughed a lot. It was a good one.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the show. I'll be listening.
Beauty. Thanks so much. And for everybody listening, wherever you found this, you can subscribe and hopefully give us a 5-star review. Or if you don't like the service you're getting, you can always switch to Dallas. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and whatever other sites pull off of those sites.
And you know what? If you don't like us, that's your problem.
If you don't like us, don't leave a comment and don't leave a review. If you do love us, just keep those 5-star reviews coming and comments.
Yeah, we are a 5-star reviewed podcast on Apple. That is a fact. That's not even a pop.
And the more 5-star reviews we get, the more people hear about us, the more we can start to afford, like, general equipment and...
I don't know, the Pass and Dime studio is pretty nice.
World headquarters, baby!
All right, that does it for us here. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and give us a subscribe as well.
Bye, Mom.
Bye, Josh, Mom.